There you go.
So, you guys remember here a while back I was talking about Rachel Scott. You guys remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I think I told you that. I remember I told you that they shot her right here, right?
Yeah.
Did I tell you what they asked her before they shot her?
Wasn't it deep?
It was something like, do you still believe in your God?
Yes. And she said yes, and then they shot her. The reason, there had to be something in her heart. There had to be something deep within her that made her believe strong enough in the Lord that she was willing to give her life for Him. And I guess the thing is I think, what are we willing to do? Where do we fall? I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I think about heaven and I think what it's going to be like. Who's ever thought what it's going to be like? Have you ever thought? So we all know we're going to worship Jesus, right?
Yep.
And the Father, right?
Yeah.
But is that like all we're going to do?
No.
What else are we going to do?
Um,
What do you think?
live in our mansions.
Yeah.
That's a good point. He's building a mansion for us, right?
From the time that we're born to the time we die, the mansion's finished.
What'd
Bye.
you say, Alex?
What'd you say?
I say living our best life out there right now.
It's gonna look like this place, but even more beautiful.
That's something very interesting right there. So, the Garden of Eden was made for man to live forever in. You guys know that? When man was made, we were not made to die. At all. We were not made to get sick. We weren't made to get ill. We weren't made to get old. We weren't made to have pain. We weren't made for all the things that is bad about life. We weren't made for it. You guys know that? When God made us, He made man and woman in His image. Yes, He made man first. That's awesome.
That is kind of concerning.
I don't know who threw that, but that's awesome. I found one in the heater earlier, stuck wedged in the heater. So God made, even though He made man first, I don't know that there is no gender in heaven. Do you guys know that?
No.
There's no male or female. There's no marriage. So in heaven, we're basically all alike. We know each other different, like we know each other here. But it's not like you're going to go to heaven and go get married. It doesn't work that way. You are a bride. Doesn't matter whether you're a male or female. You are the bride of Christ. So when we go to heaven, we're all going to be on the same playing field. We're all going to be up there to be with the Lord. But, as I thought about that, I was reading and it was talking about, so, who's got a Bible that's got something like this in it? Something other than the scripture. Like notes or something like that, right? So that's part of this I was reading out there, and it was talking about how it was talking about basically how the New Jerusalem I'm sorry, lost my train of thought. Either way, it was talking about how the Garden of Eden was basically made. It would have been like paradise until we messed it up. There was the tree of life in the garden. Sometime in the future, Jesus is going to come back. Jesus doesn't know when. Only the Father knows when. As crazy as that sounds. Jesus doesn't know when, only the Father knows when. And the Father, one of these days, is going to go, He's going to be like, go get my church. and Jesus is going to come in the clouds and we're going to take off. Once that happens, all chaos is going to break loose. The only thing holding back the enemy right now is saints. We're saints. If you believe in the Lord, you're a saint. Okay? The only thing holding back the enemy is that if you're a saint, God's Spirit dwells within you. And that Spirit has more power than the enemy has. Right? So listen to this. This is talking about towards the end. But as I read this, I was like, man, this is some crazy junk. After these things, this is Revelation 18. After these things, I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having great authority. And the earth was illuminated with his glory. And he cried mightily with a loud voice, saying, Babylon the Great has fallen, is fallen, and has become a dwelling place of demons, a prison for every foul spirit, and a cage for every unclean and hated bird. This was the part that stood out to me. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Who knows what fornication is? What is it?
Sex before marriage.
It is. It's basically cheating. It's like, it's not like cheating on a test. It's like being unfaithful to who you're supposed to be faithful to. Okay? Huh?
Can you read that again?
Yep. So, for all the nations have drunk of the wine of her wrath and her fornication. The kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have become rich through the abundance of her luxury. And I heard another voice saying, from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, and lest you receive her plagues. For her sins have reached to heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities.
Who is her?
So I think this is talking about a nation. Okay? And what caught my mind about this, guys, is when I was a kid, things weren't on TV like they are now. They had to sneak stuff in. And they did sneak stuff in. We saw that, right? We was watching the Waltons the other night. Started watching the Waltons. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
It's got Ouija boards in it. I didn't even know what one looked like when I was a kid, so I wouldn't have known. But Titus caught it. But now they're not sneaking nothing in. It's like blatant. Like, I watched a video where it was at some type of either an Olympic game or a prep for an Olympic game or something like that. And they built a cow, like a statue. And this person rode it in. They were like driving it. It was like on wheels, but it was a cow. And somebody was sitting on top of it in red, and a bunch of people bowing down to this thing.
I once was interested in a Prime Video show called Pizza Cat until I realized that it got gross.
Yeah, it did get gross. What caught my eye about this was I was going to talk to you guys about heaven. And heaven is a real place. It's as real as any place. It's more real than what we deal with right here. One of these days, God's going to come back. He's going to put an end to sin. There's going to be a city come out of heaven and land on the earth, and he is going to wipe away the old earth.
Where's that city gonna be?
Where?
Does it say?
Probably in Jerusalem, I would say. I mean, that's,
Yeah, because it's called New Jerusalem.
yeah.
I know.
So, but it talks about he's going to get rid of the old. He's going to destroy the old earth and everything, and replace it with new stuff. And I think that new stuff's gonna be like what it was like in the Garden of Eden. Perfection.
After the mark of the beast?
Way after that, yeah. So,
Is that what it means by Jesus will reign on the earth for tens of thousands of years? Like he's gonna.
it talks right here, we're fixing to go into that. The 1,000-year reign. That is in Revelation 20. 1,000-year reign. But I guess what caught my eye about this was, as I was reading this, let me read a little bit farther. Okay, it said that another voice will say, "Come out, my people, lest you share her sins and receive her plagues. For her sins has reached to heaven and God, and he has remembered her iniquities. Render to her as she has rendered to you, but repay her double, according to her works. In the cup which she has mixed, double it for her. In the measure that she has glorified herself and lived luxuriously, in the same measure give her torment and sorrow. For she says in her heart, I sit as a queen, and I am no widow, and I will not see tomorrow. Therefore her plagues will come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she will be utterly burned up with fire. For strong is the Lord who judges her. Then the kings of the earth who committed fornication and lived luxuriously with her will weep and lament for her." Lament means like grieve, okay? "When they see the smoke of her burning, standing at a distance for fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, the great city Babylon, the mighty city, for in 1 hour your judgment has come. And the merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her, for no one buys their merchandise anymore. Merchandise of gold and silver, precious stones and pearl, fine linen and purple silk and scarlet, every kind of citron wood, every kind of object of ivory, every kind of object of precious wood, bronze, iron, and marble, and cinnamon and incense and fragrance and oil and frankincense and wine and oil, fine flour and wheat and cattle and sheep and horses and chariots and bodies and souls of men. The fruit that your soul longed for is gone from you, and all the things that were rich and splendid have gone from you. And you shall find them no more at all. The merchants of these things who became rich by her will stand at a distance for fear of her torment, weeping and wailing and saying, Alas, alas, the great city that was clothed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold, precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour such great riches became nothing. Every shipmaster and all who traveled by ship, sailors, and as many as trade on the sea, stood at a distance and cried out when they saw the smoke of her burning. What is this? What is like this great city? They threw dust on their heads and cried out, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, the great city, in which all who has ships on the sea became rich for her wealth. For in 1 hour she's made desolate. Rejoice over her, O heaven, and you holy apostles and prophets, for God has avenged you on her. Okay. Now, I'll tell you why this kind of stood out to me. This particular part, this is Revelation 18. It's 1 through about 20, okay? As I thought about this, I thought, do you guys know that, I'm not exactly sure what it is today, but as of about 10 years ago, the United States consumed about 70% of the world's merchandise. You guys know that? That means of all the stuff that's made in the entire world, that's like factory-made stuff, the United States buys about 70% of it. Now, right now in our country, we are seeing all kinds of wickedness. All kinds of wickedness, guys. Let me tell you something. This stuff about drag queens and stuff like that, that would have never happened when I was a kid.
So drag queen.
Yeah, what's a drag?
That's these dudes dressing up like women.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, people did that, but when I was a kid, if you got caught doing that, the other boys in school would beat you up. So you wouldn't do it openly. We got that. We are murdering our children through abortion. Up till last year, at a rate of 50 million children have been murdered in the United States. In the United States alone.
Didn't they just outlaw it though?
They did, but they didn't really outlaw it. What they did is they gave the power back to the states. So
Probably still legal in California.
it's still legal in California. But it's illegal in a lot of other states. There is change happening, but it's slow. But what caught my ear about this, and I'm not saying this is the United States, but what I'm saying is, whatever country this is not a third world country. Whatever country this is a first world country, which means they have cell phones and cars and trucks and TVs and internet and all that stuff. That's a first world country.
So it could be like China and China.
It could be. But as I read this, I thought about when John saw this, when the angel showed him all this. John would have seen this huge metropolis, which they had cities back then, but not like ours. Okay? This could be a country, or it could be a humongous city. I don't know. Me personally, I tend to think this would be like a country. And I'm not saying I'm right on that. I'm just saying that's what I think. But I thought about what would have to happen for in 1 hour it be completely eliminated. What do you guys think?
What would be eliminated?
An entire city like the size of New York or a country. What would have to happen for in 1 hour it to be completely eliminated?
Something falls on it.
Huh?
Nuclear bomb,
Something like that, right? It would have to be something major. I mean, it would be like catastrophic, right? So I was thinking about that, and then I started thinking about all these ships, all these merchants and everything else that will stop. And they're weeping because no longer are these people buying their stuff. Because those people are gone. Now the reason this stood out to me is I'm thinking about the United States, and I'm thinking about all the stuff we buy, and it's talking about this harlot that's deceiving people and causing them to walk away from God and follow after sexual sins and lust and the sins of the flesh. Right now that's happening in the United States. It's happening in other places too. But it is definitely happening in the United States. I'm thinking about that and I'm like, man, it gets pretty bad there towards the end. But in verse 4, that's the one that really stood out to me, verse 4. Verse 4 says, "And I heard another voice from heaven saying, 'Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, and lest you receive her plagues. Come out of her, my people.'" That tells me God, whatever this city or country is, God is going to call his people out of it. If that is the United States, reading what I'm reading right there, man, that could be any minute. That could be before we go home.
What does it mean by it's going to call us out?
Boom. Leave this world, rapture. That's what I think. What do you think?
Yeah. I concur.
Huh?
I concur.
And that's what I'm thinking that means.
Go.
Is that or a voice comes from heaven, "Come out of here, my people."
Dan,
Yes.
is there a movie called like The Vanishing or something that's about the rapture?
Vanished? Vanished.
Vanished,
Yes. Good, John. It's really good.
Yeah. that's
There's
about
also
the
a
rapture.
movie, there's also a movie called Left Behind.
So, I said all that to tell you guys, heaven's real. It's awesome. I mean, it goes on to talk about this place that is 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles. 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles is like from here to Kansas City. 1,500 miles is from the north border of the United States in like Minnesota to the south border of Texas. That's 1,500 miles. That is like a city the size of the whole western United States. And that city will not need, there will be no darkness. There will be no sickness. There will be no sin. There'll be no evil. Nothing. There will be no evil there at all.
Will the saints be called to the city?
Yes. That's one of the best parts about it.
And there will be no Ouija boards.
There won't. In this city, in Revelation 21, he said, "Now I saw new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no more sea." Seas are gone.
What's gone?
The seas. There is no more sea. No more ocean. Then I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from heaven saying, "Behold, the tabernacle of God is with man, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. God himself will be with them and be their God. And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There shall be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying. There shall be no pain, for the former things have passed away." Then he who sat on the throne said, "Behold, I make all things new." And he said to me, "Write, for these things are true and faithful." And he said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give of the fountain of the water of life freely to him who thirsts. For he who overcomes shall inherit all things. I will be his God, and he shall be my son. I will be his God, and he shall be my son." Guys,
When you go.
there's a lot of crazy stuff in Revelation. There's so much in it. I think of John seeing this stuff, and it's stuff he did not understand. He was trying his very best. He was looking at a car and saying, "How do I describe what I'm seeing?" Okay? But when we get to the end of this, like 21 and 22, we win. Christ comes down, he puts the hammer down. Like the first time he come, one of the things it says here in 20 is it says, "Then I saw a great white throne and him who sat on it, for whose face the earth and heaven fled away." Earth and heaven fled. And there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before him. I mean, I think about when Jesus comes. It talks right around in there. It talks about him having eyes of burning fire, and it talks about he will come to fight Satan, and we're going to come with him. Except we're not going to be man no more. When we come back with him, we will have the glory of God with us.
So we're gonna go fight Satan in hell with him?
Not in hell, on earth.
Oh. So like during the after the rapture,
Mm-hmm.
we fight with him.
We're going to come back.
We ain't gonna be doing none of the fighting.
No, he's going to do it all pretty much. We're just going to be there. He says out of his mouth, he'll speak it. See, so all this stuff just stirs me up because I think about how, man, we win, guys. It is easy to be looking at what's happening in the world around us, what's happening at school, our friends, all these people that are like dragging us in all these different directions all at once. Telling us, some people are telling us you're awesome, some people are telling us you suck. Right?
Yeah.
But the reality is, it doesn't matter what any of them think. It doesn't matter how awesome somebody thinks you are. It doesn't matter. I can think you're awesome all day long. But my opinion don't count. His does.
Amen.
Right? In the end, I'm not going to redeem you. Your friends in school aren't going to redeem you. Your family's not going to redeem you. Your mom and dad can't redeem you. Your brothers and sisters can't redeem you. The only person that can redeem you is Christ, and He is building all this for you and planning all this stuff.
Amen.
He is planning all this stuff for you guys. Listen, I personally think when we go to heaven, I think we're going to go there. We're going to wait till He takes care of business down here. Once He makes that new place, we're going to come back. We're going to live here on a new earth. In the holy city, New Jerusalem. That's what I think. And I think there's going to be stuff that we get to do. And I think if we want to go play football, we can go play football. And if we want to play baseball, we can play baseball. And if we want to ride a lion, we can do that too.
And a dinosaur.
And a dinosaur. As crazy as that sounds, dinosaurs are in the Bible. I can show you where it's at.
Actually?
Yeah.
Yes, it is there.
And dragons.
And dragons.
And it turns out, well, dinosaurs weren't wiped out by an asteroid. They were wiped out by the flood.
Yeah, it's Job 40, 15 to 24. It talks about dinosaurs.
One day, guys, this is all going to be over. Nothing that we did on this earth, none of the stuff that we built, none of the stuff we saved, none of the stuff we gained, none of that's going to matter except what you did with your heart and what you did with the Lord.
That's right.
That's it. Now here's the thing. I want to go to heaven. And sometimes I'm like, I don't even understand this. Sometimes I'm like, man, I read the Bible like this right here. I read this morning, and I've read this a few times lately. I went back over it this morning, and it's still a little bit confusing. But you know what? We don't have to understand it all. That's just how it goes. We don't need to understand it all.
Job 40, 15 to 24.
15.
15, no, Job 40.
Hey, we'll show you that here in a few. Okay? All right. So here's what I want to do. We're going to start worship here in a minute. Before we start it, I want you to think about heaven. I want you to think about the city that it's got 4 gates or it's got 12 gates and 4 on each side, 3 on each side. And it talks about these gates are made of one huge pearl. Think about how magnificent God has to be to build a gate out of one pearl. I mean, where does he even get that thing? Right?
Big oyster.
Huh?
Big oyster.
Yeah. I mean, he may be building that right now in the Mariana Trench. But we don't know because we can't go down there and find out. There might be 12 big oysters down there. Bigger than this room. Who knows? God is full of mysteries. And he's got mysteries for us. The Bible is full of mystery. God's full of mystery. The future's full of mystery. Even your lives, guys, are full of mystery. So don't worry about trying to figure all that out. Figure out one thing. I'm going to live my life for Jesus. I'm going to just keep pushing towards him because I don't have to know it all. I'm telling you right now, the older you get, you're going to figure out more and more you don't know it all. I'm 46, And I have figured out that people that are 76, I talk to people that are 26, and I'm like, you have no idea, dude. And then I talk to people that are 76, and they're like, you had no idea, dude. We never really figured out. We just gotta trust that God's got it figured out.
Yeah.
And feed our soul with everything we can to reassure us of that. So, that was not at all where I planned on going tonight. Not at all. I didn't even read this, but listen to this. Go ahead and put your chairs away. Remind us after service. We'll show you where that's at. Put your chairs away, move your drinks. I am going to try, I want to try to remember to start saying this every service. So look at me, or each other, I don't care. You ready? Alright.
We can hold them for a while.
Huh?
Sorry, Dan, I got stuck outside.
Alright.
That's a fun story, I'll tell you later.
Cool. Alright. Look at somebody. Say, I believe the whole Bible.
I believe the whole Bible,
What it says about God,
what it says about God,
what it says about me,
what it says about me,
what it says about you.
what it says about you,
And because of that,
and because of that,
I'm grateful
I'm grateful,
and I know I belong.
and I know I belong,
You belong.
you belong,
And we belong.
and we belong.
We're going to try to start saying that. Get it in our head. I love the part about that, in that says, I believe the whole Bible, what it says about God, what it says about you, and what it says about me.